The messages I'm going to share in this episode, they're totally valid for those of you who are business owners, leaders, managers, consultants, right? This is for all of you. Because I think it's really important that everyone gets their head around what I'm going to share. It seems as though we've slipped into a world where everything revolves around yes, no, did, didn't, have not. And because of that, conversations don't really evolve to discuss the sophistication of this job. It boils down to being something simplistic. And because it boils down to being something so simplistic, the unfortunate byproduct is it creates disengagement. It means consultants start to drift. They lose their mojo. They start to ask themselves those quiet questions under their breath. Is this fucking it? Is this what recruitment is? And we end up seeing people who have proven themselves as billers. We see people who have consistently been able to get job, find talent, bring together, make placement, temp perm or contract, and decide, I think I'm going to move out of recruitment. I'm going to go do something different. I need a new challenge. The classic pathway used to be, I wonder what it's like in talent. I bet being internal talent would be great. Maybe I wouldn't have to do the BD. And they make the mistake of thinking that internal talent is easier than external recruitment. And unfortunately, internal talent will tell you, in hindsight, there is BD in the internal space just the same as there is in the external. It's called stakeholder management. And it's often more challenging than BD because you don't get to pick your customers, right? They're there. But that pathway is starting to close. We're probably somewhere in the region of 18 months away from talent as an internal function completely disappearing. Because automation and AI can do everything that the transactional talent team can do. I'm sure that there will be a space for some kind of talent engineer to be looking after a set of AI agents, but it's going to look like a dashboard far more than it does a department. But anyway, the point that I'm making is this. When consultants start to drift, when consultants start to disengage, when those people who are at 2 years or 3 years or whatever the service point is, where they start to wonder, is this what it is? And the striving stops, right? That's a good way to put it. The striving stops because, I don't know, they're banging in 180 grand, they're clocking 250, whatever the number is that keeps the wolf from the door, whilst at the same time doesn't mean, whoo-hoo, 5 more years of this, Rodney, and I'll be able to retire. And then the thought of being able to get to 300 or 500, it just starts to feel like, well, that just means do more of the same. More hours, more jobs, more placements. And there isn't a clear pathway to start to see, how do I become more sophisticated in what I do? How do I become a better engineer of my future by being more mindful as what does improvement look like? And a lot of this is because of the shallowness of conversations that takes place between consultants and consultants, consultants and managers, business owners and managers, and it's just the whole thing boils down to, have you not, did you not, will you, won't you? And it stops people thinking about the quality of the work that they're doing. So if I give you some real examples, consultant says to manager, I'm stuck with this job, I've done LinkedIn. Like, let's just press pause on that immediately, right? 1.8 billion people on LinkedIn. That is bigger than the population of Europe. Can we just pause for a moment? You've done it. Yeah, I've done it. Well, what do you mean you've done it? Well, I've messaged everyone in the project and I'm just waiting to see who comes back. Oh, right, okay. Have you advertised it? Yeah, I advertised it last week. Have you been through the database? Yeah, I've done the database. Have you called everyone? Yeah, I've called everyone and sent them an email. Right? This becomes a classic conversation. Have you not? Did you not? As if there is only one standard by which those things can be done. And if it has been done to any form of standard, then it's completed. LinkedIn completed, database completed, job boards completed, advertising completed. So just pause for a moment and think, what if the question changed? What if the question became, how well did you message people on LinkedIn? How well did you search to find the people that don't have these 17 words in your Boolean search in their profile? How well did you target individuals at the right moment in their career where we feel they would be more prone to the idea of making a move? How well did you suggest to those people who weren't interested that the benefit of a referral is an increased level of dopamine and oxytocin in their system? How well did you work our database to start to be able to ensure you were getting conversations with people at a time of day that was most suitable for them? Or were you simply phoning people who are in a job at 10 in the morning and leaving them a weak voicemail message that basically says, "Hi Steve, this is Jeremy. I've got an opportunity that I wanted to run past you. So if you get the opportunity to give me a call back, call me on this number. Speak to you soon." And then following it up with a weak and insipid email. Because really what's happening therefore is people are learning how to do the job through repetition to a low standard. And because they're learning to do it to a low standard, and there is no conversations about the next level and the next level, they don't realise that actually what they're doing is they're resourcing a job as a level 2 delivery consultant, and there are opportunities to ascend to level 15 because no one's shown them the pathway. In fact, the only pathway that has been shown has been the, dude, if you bill more, you change title. And if you bill more and you change title, the most logical place to go to next is to become a manager so you don't have to bill as much and you encourage more people to bill more. So the pathways are kind of dumbed down. The ascension in the business revolves around billings, billings and billings. So job title we would expect to bill 150 to 180. This job title we'd expect 180 to 250. This job title 250 and above. And no description of the behaviours. No descriptions of, at this level, this is the standard of operating that we would see in terms of delivery. When you then ascend to senior consultant, we would see you doing these things with more consistency. These are the behaviours that create 180k billings. And then when you ascend to principal consultant, you'll have mastered these skills and have become so much more sophisticated in how you deal with simple things like candidates saying, "I'm not looking for a job," or how you construct a conversation with a hiring manager to start to win future exclusive and retained business rather than waiting until their advert failed. But no one has put together these frameworks in the typical recruitment agency, because everything has been diluted down to a binary list of actions. "Hey Steve, how are you getting on with your business development?" "Yeah, no one's hiring at the moment. No one's answering the phone." "Oh, okay, keep going." At some point we need to unpack. What level of operating system does this person have? Where are the places that we need to retain their current strengths and hold a line? Where are the places where there is an opportunity for more consistency? And what are the new behaviours and habits that, if this person adopted them, could help them to level up, to help them to be able to ascend? So it kind of saddens me that there are people who leave our industry because they've decided that maybe it's not for me. Maybe I'm not born to be a recruiter. Maybe I've just completed it and that's the level at which I'm going to get to. And they become, I don't know, teachers, zoologists, recruitment trainers, I don't know. But they end up doing something else. And they end up doing something else without having realised just how much challenge actually exists in getting really good at this. Not through more calories and pushing harder and doing more hours, but by increasing the sophistication with which work is done. So if you're a manager, there is a time and a place to say, "Hey Billy, how are you getting on with that job?" "I can't find anyone." "Have you looked on Bullhorn?" "Yeah, I've done Bullhorn." "Right, what about an advert?" There is a moment of, "Hey, let's do some directive instructions." What there also needs to be is some coaching. Let's spend some time coaching with Billy. Hey Billy, when you're working on a role, show me how you interrogate Bullhorn. And as you interrogate Bullhorn, walk me through the results that are here and tell me what you're thinking about each individual record here. What are your thoughts about their profile? What do you see as being a reason to call them? What do you see as being a reason to not call them? What's your final decision? Help Billy to become more sophisticated with how he deploys his thinking. Help Billy to apply more deductive logic. Help Billy to start to recognise that there is more to this job than simply rinsing a list. There is way more to this job than leaving low-level voicemails and seeing who comes back. There is way more to this job than creating a mail shot, which is all about the vacancy that you have and sending it to 100 people. Because there are levels of ascension that are possible that could increase sending a message to 100 and getting a response rate of 4, and sending a message to a group of 100 and getting a response rate of 60. And I've seen people deliver both in the same marketplaces, in competition with each other. One is just more sophisticated with how they choose to do their job because they recognise that recruitment's not black and white. Recruitment is technicolor. Recruitment is an ever-evolving levels of ascension in terms of capability. So we could look at a consultant. We could look at you as a manager, as a leader, as a consultant, and decide what are the 7 core activities that are integral to your job. And as we look at the 7 core activities that are integral to your job, that might look like sales calls, job qualification, process management, candidate management, account development, coaching, right? As you start to look at the things and then decide, right, for each of those, there are 10 levels of capability. And we define what does each level of capability look like. Your level of performance, your level of capability is probably going to cap out at 2 levels below what you're able to define. Does that make sense? So if you take a skill like job qualification, and you decide, right, level 1 looks like this. This is the most fundamental basics of job qual. Level 2, it looks like this. As you start to describe those levels, you will have extreme clarity probably on level 1, level 2, level 3. And then as we get to level 4, level 5, we're getting closer to being descriptions of what you do with consistency. Then when we get to level 6, level 7, you're starting to define things that you know are possible. You've done them in the past, but you've done them inconsistently. And often links to certain mitigations or excuses that stop you from doing it or drive you to do it with more vigour. And then as we get to levels 8 and 9, you're starting to describe things that are like, I'm not sure that this is possible. So if you're able to describe up to level 8 job qualification, you probably operate most consistently at 6, because you defined 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 so easily, and 6 started to become, well, this is kind of my comfort zone and where I'm at with some consistency, and 7, 8 started to become the mitigated reasons why on occasion I don't do those things. They're my inconsistent behaviours. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, you can't even see them. And maybe you can't see them because you are the top person in your business at job qualification. So everyone looks at you and you're level 8 or you're level 6 and everyone else is like level 3 and 4 and they go, oh, you're the Don of job qual. You've got nowhere else to go until somebody shows you the next roadmap. And as you start to think about your core activities, the skills that you have, and you think about those levels, it is not embarrassing to think, I have a long way to go. There is nothing wrong with having 10 years experience and realising, I should know what I'm doing by now. You know, I used to be offended by this. I used to be offended by people who'd say to me, Jeremy, I've been doing this for 20 years, so I doubt whether there is anything you can teach me. And I used to feel offended by that because I thought, well, what are they saying about me? as I have continued to gather wisdom and maturity, I've realised it says nothing about me. It says everything about them. Because some of these people who've got 20 years experience, they've decided that they're at maximum level at all things. And either they've convinced themselves it is not possible to be any better at the things that I do, or they've slipped into this thought process that they're now in the territory of marginal gains, and this idea about 1% better. It's kind of bullshit. Most people could get 20% better. The 1% marginal gain thing, that's kind of fine for the Sky cycling team and the British Olympic cycling team, the Dave Brailsford school of thought that applies to people like Chris Hoy, where Chris Hoy is at that absolute echelon of, and the bike has been engineered to within a moment of its life to be at the top echelon of. Then marginal gains, I totally get it. Most people sat on a desk doing recruitment, if they're thinking about marginal gains, they are deluding themselves as to how good they are at doing what they do. And that's not me trying to project to you, I know more. It's not about knowing more. It's about the consistency with which you do. And it's the quality standards that you hold yourself as you do those things, do you know? So there are people who feel they have arrived at the top echelons, and it's called the Dunning-Kruger effect. It impacts people with 20 years experience who think they know everything, right? Jeremy, there's very little you could teach me about recruitment. And they say that to me without even knowing who I am and what I can do. It becomes a hardwired assumption. There is no further progression that I can go, and anything that happens to me now in terms of improvement, it's market conditions. It's the luck of having that client. It certainly isn't about skill improvement. So they end up being 20 years experience, but probably having 4 years experience multiplied by 5, just 5 times over doing the same things. So there's this Dunning-Kruger effect that gives them a false sense of perception as to how good they are at something, which stops them seeking more. And I reckon if we gave them the test, they would refuse to do it. When you encounter those candidates, this is a funny thing, right? You encounter a candidate who says, I've been doing project management for 20 years, Jeremy, just put me forward. And when you're green as a consultant, you believe it because you've been doing recruitment for 10 months. They've been doing project management for 20 years. You're still getting your head around what Prince 2 really is and what Black Belt 6 Sigma looks like. And they're talking like they are the absolute lord of project management, so you put them forward. You go, oh, okay, I'll just get them in, right? They said get me the interview and I'll show you how good I am, so I did. They end up being the candidates with the worst feedback. Worst feedback because of attitude, worst feedback because of a lack of capability, worst feedback because of a lack of self-awareness. And once you get to 2 years in recruitment, that goes off as an alarm, right? 2 little alarms that go off in recruiter's head. Trust me, I know what I'm doing. I've been doing this for 20 years. Rookies, oh, that's so good to hear. I believe you. And then the second thing that people say that should set an alarm off, no, don't worry about the interview prep. I'm really good in interviews. I've had loads recently. I'm going to be fine. People's false perceptions of their capability. Same for you guys. If we gave that test to the person with 20 years of experience, here is a template that I would like you to complete, and we're going to take a core skill that you believe that you do with great capability. So let's call it headhunting, let's call it BD, let's call it something, right? Let's call it crafting emails to candidates. And let's start to break it down. What does level 1 look like? What does level 2 capability look like? What does level 3 look like? And I want you to describe it as behaviours and capability, not outcomes. It doesn't look like 1% response, 2% response, 10% response, 30% response. Those are the outcomes of the capability. And if you can't delineate the capability of a core task that you believe is your superpower beyond 6 levels of capability, you may find that there is more to learn than you actually realise about that thing. And that's what wisdom gives us. That's what experience should give us, right? It should give us a greater and greater awareness that the more time we spend doing something, the more aware we are of the fact there is so much to learn. Something that was shared with me when I first got into recruitment was the life stages of a recruiter. And there was 3 simple stages, right? There was infant, like a baby. I need help with everything. Show me what to do. Protect me from harm. And I'll do whatever you say, right? Because like, you're my parent. So when I'm an infant recruiter, I adopt systems and processes and I follow them, and I probably generate more leads than the experienced people. I probably qualify my jobs better than the experienced people, because I'm just like, I'm so in consumption mode and so focused on the fact that I know nothing, teach me everything. Infants then become teenagers. And you know what teenagers are like. You've been one and I've been one. They start to believe that they know better. And they might agree in a one-to-one, yeah, I'll do that thing. But in their head, they're going, you have no idea what it's like running my desk. You don't know the pressures that I'm under. It's easy for you to say, well, just ask more questions. But honestly, have you been a consultant in the last 5 minutes? So they reject. And they spend more time talking to other teenagers in what I call vape club outside the building, moaning about the parents that I'll call managers, who apparently have no idea what they're really talking about, and they're just like push. We in Vape Club know what the real life is like, and we start to learn bad ideas from each other, and then we go back to our desk and continue to feel like no one can tell me what to do. I know what I'm doing, and as long as I've got a good book of excuses, by the time we get to my one-to-one, I'll be fine for the following week. And then the next level of maturity, teenagers become adults. Adults start to realise there is more to learn from others. They become selective about who they choose to learn from. They choose not to learn from the people at Vape Club. They choose to invest more time with people that they respect. They identify mentors. They identify the right people to ask the right questions. They share their goals with people that can help them to achieve it and keep them hidden from those who are just going to piss on them. And they start to grow, they start to develop. The journey from infant to teenager to adult, infant to teenager is quite rapid. The journey from teenager to adult sometimes never happens. Still to this day, I meet teenagers working in recruitment who apparently know what they're doing, and they've been doing it for 15 years. I even see some of them going into this idea that they can become L&D people and start to, from a teenage brain, show other people how to do the job better. And this isn't about their chronological age, it's about their maturity. And if they haven't matured enough to recognise that there is still a lot to learn, they feel like they've completed the game, but they only got to level 4. They've yet to arrive at a point of being level 10, level 20, level 50, you know. There will always be another level possible. But if we look at it as a marginal gain, going from level 49 to level 50, marginal gain. Going from level 5 to level 10, big leap. And there are a lot of people who could make some big leaps if they were a little more self-aware as to where they were truly at. And maybe if conversations in businesses became more sophisticated. How well did you advertise? How well did you do your outreach? How well did you leave a voicemail message? How well did you qualify the job? How well did you position the business? How well did you deal with the objection? How well did you justify a different percentage before you agreed to 15 simply because you knew we would allow you to? It doesn't happen as frequently as it should, which is a good thing, because that's how I make money. It's a bad thing because it stops you from making money. So somewhere between the two, there's a match made in heaven. So look, if you've got questions or thoughts about the things that I'm describing here, you know where to find me. I'd love to hear your feedback. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you want to do a levels assessment in terms of your capability, and you start to feel as though you've run out of ideas because you've got to level 7 at this and level 9 at that and level 12 at that, and you want to share it with me, maybe I could show you what the next 3 levels could look like that build on what you've already defined. And then maybe you'll start to recognise that your tenure in recruitment has got very little to do with your capability. Your capability has far more to do with your attitude, your self-awareness, and the wisdom that you've developed on your journey to realise there's a lot more to this that I need to learn, and I discover that in greater abundance with every day that I do my job. Have a great one, people.